because of where they were,
Cut out
and they did some adjustments to the house, they just got rid of their flooding.
What's that?
You cut out Wilson?
Yeah.
What do you use?
Awesome rotary
Sad
cutter.
situations.
Oh.
It's an oscillating cutter that does this really fast. Right.
Probably
I just use the laser level and made my lines, and cut out the weed. Got up to where it's dry. And then we're gonna disinfect it.
Is he trying to get a mitigation in there or not? You don't think-
Yeah.
No, perfect. That was what we spent yesterday,
What's
that?
We were the mitigation team yesterday. That was church in the morning and Will South Hall in the morning. But we took out all the rest of the flooring. He already had the carpet and pad out. We took out the laminate that snapped together and put down, because it's never gonna dry. And then started cutting out sheet rock. What do you?
Yep.
You guys can keep talking if you want. I don't know why I got so quiet.
My older kids helped us out until 2:30 the next day, doing the same thing,
Wow.
sucking it up, so that was kinda nice, I got some sleep for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, like, good tired, turned into like not fun anymore, staying up late, so.
Right.
Listening to music.
Yeah, Melissa and I decided we'd do a sleep shift this Friday night.
Yeah.
That worked out okay, but it worked out really good when Andrew came home.
Your call
Like,
has
hey,
been
guess what?
forwarded to.
Look at these, buddy.
He's like, I'll
Call us
check
if
it.
anything happens.
I'll check it after every game I play. Like,
Call us if you need a break of time.
so he was
Oh,
like,
gosh, yeah. Oh,
Stay a message with me, we'll dial him back in.
You're gonna try to call Sandra back in a little bit.
If he messages me.
Oh.
He may still be in meetings, I'm not sure.
oh, we got one down there that's up.
Yeah, we got a new subscriber to YouTube channel or something, named Heidi. It's fantastic, thank you for subscribing.
Okay, I'm not even there today.
We're like
I'm not really.
0.5% of our viewership at this point.
I just mean my kids got on and are watching this.
Really?
There's mom right there.
Everything good over your place?
They don't know. Just literally say, hey, that's mom right there.
Your kids are my civic heroes.
Oh, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everyone. After this weekend, I was thinking, I don't know how we're gonna carry on with Monday night, but here we are. So, opening items here, do we have any additions or subtractions from the agenda tonight?
Mayor, a couple of couple of changes here. I'd like to delete the banking RFP. That's item B under new business. Add the park board appointment as we'll add that as the last item of new business after the flood discussion.
Okay.
You added what I was gonna add.
All right, is there a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve as amended?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Next item is visitors to be heard. So if there are any visitors that'd like to step up for, share, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and approximately 2 minutes. So, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. Ryan Solberg with Lennox Area Development Corporation and Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. I believe Nate has informed most of you by now, but I will be leaving the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance in LADC in mid-August to return to grad school. My replacement is here this evening with me, Josh Chase. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to let you all know and to let Josh introduce himself.
Good evening, Joshua Chase with Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. Like Ryan mentioned, I'll be replacing him when he goes off to school here in about a month and a half. Just want to come and say hello to you all. Thank you.
Welcome.
Looking forward to getting to know you better.
Thank you for your work, Ryan.
Thank you.
Josh is a recent USD MPA grad, so
Yep, that's right.
future city administrator in training here.
All right, any other visitors to be heard this evening? All right, seeing there's none, we'll move on to the next item, the consent agenda. So we'll look for a motion for approve the consent agenda. Before we do, just wanted to see if there's any comments, questions, concerns, our council members would like to bring up.
Mayor and Council, just one addition, I did receive an email late this afternoon from Park Board member Kelly Bloomgarden that she was also resigning her position on the board. So I think we could just as well accept that tonight, though she is willing to serve until a replacement is found, so I'll leave that up to you to whether you want to add that or not.
All right, I'd like to give a shout out to our city staff and what everyone did stepping up in the floods and rainwater and all that battle and the lack of sleep and finding equipment and taking the necessary steps to do as much as you could to save as many basements and headaches as possible. Greatly appreciated that effort. And you know, you guys, I don't know how often people tell you thank you, but publicly I definitely want to tell you thank you. It's huge. And your dedication is just always shines through. It's not necessarily just when we have things like this, it just gets more noticed when we have things like this. But I know you guys are always there and you're always grinding and you're always doing the right thing. And it's awesome to see it. And thank you.
We had a bit of an odd moment on, I think it was Saturday, we went to lunch at El Mariachi, we had a little bit of a break there. So the three of us went to El Mariachi, I met these guys there. And in the parking lot, somebody had pulled up rather aggressively, I guess. And they kind of assumed that this was going to be an unpleasant discussion, but we walked in and this family was thanking them left and right for all the work they had done. And it was a pretty cool moment, so.
Nice. Saw the smoke test on 44 in Main today. That looked like a pretty simple fix.
It won't be a super complicated fix, it's just a manhole that's not seated properly. I don't know, Kyle, if you want to talk about that at all.
The smoke testing that you witnessed today, that was kind of like an emergency smoke test, because we had an idea potentially where some of this ground rainwater was infiltrating our sewer system. So I called in the assistance with South Dakota Rural Water. They showed up today and we tested that section and found, like what Nate mentioned, just a minimal entry point, but we fixed it this afternoon.
Nice.
So, we did some smoke testing on Oriole Avenue last week. Nothing real significant there either. The search continues.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
And I
So you
got,
don't think that manhole is the true root of it?
I mean, it was like in a ditch,
Yeah.
and that ditch was flooded.
Yeah.
So if we could do some calculations and kind of get an estimated amount of
Is
water.
definitely hurting it, that's probably not the only thing.
No,
Yeah.
right, but it definitely is contributing to
Yeah.
that. So we just gotta.
Probably the best contributor we found yet.
So far, that I've seen, yeah.
What do we think about some pumps still, illegally going into?
I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be some out there, but from what I'm seeing, this incoming water is happening so quickly. I just don't know, the amount of water that I'm about to present to you later tonight, that you're gonna see it's not just sump pumps. I mean, if it is, these sump pumps gotta be running 24 hours in a larger diameter than an inch and a half. I mean, I just don't see it happening.
My parents live by T and they got an alert that the city was gonna be going door to door and inspecting, and you'd be fined if you were illegally discharging or
I
something.
think we've done that in the past.
We've done that
Yeah,
several times in the
definitely.
past. It's been probably 6 years since we did it.
And we have that in our ordinances now, that there's penalties for
$500 a day, I believe.
a month, and we can go back on that as well.
And it's fairly easy to, I mean, without knocking on doors and going in?
No, so we can do smoke testing per block, but the thing is usually if they're gonna have a sump line illegally hooked up, that sump, it usually has water in it, so that's gonna stop any smoke from entering the house, and we're not gonna see it. An inspection's the only way, really.
And of course, if you inspect today and it's fine, there's no guarantee that tomorrow it's not plumbed right back to where it was the day before.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, well, it hurts everyone, I mean.
It does, yeah.
We do, yeah, well, we'll talk more about
Yeah,
that.
I have some words to say later, but do you have anything else?
How's the mechanical room holding up without good AC right now?
It's 104 degrees on our left this afternoon, so I gotta get either something temporary in there soon, because that AC's not gonna be here till the end of July.
Right, that's another month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's tomorrow's agenda, get something in
Right on.
there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Any other comments or questions or things we need to talk through with the consent agenda?
Do we need to discuss the other park board resignation and approve that now in case she has other, I know she does other things in the community. And if we have enough members on the board, I would feel comfortable accepting it now. And then appointing you.
I think we talked through how many we had. I think we were still at we were over the minimum.
Right. Let's see here.
Minimum was 6, I believe. That's all right? No, 5.
I think it's fine.
It's 5.
It's fine.
So we're still okay if you do want to accept it.
Right. Yes. Yep.
And we won't have a meeting until middle of July at this
Yep.
point, so.
3 weeks away yet.
Do you need a motion for that?
Just to make clear that you're approving as amended. Approve consent agenda as amended.
So I guess, I'd recommend we amend, to add a park board resignation for Kelly Boomgardner effective immediately.
Motion to approve consent agenda as amended?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion?
Yes, May sales tax revenue showed a sharp decline from May 23 comparative. What came to play here? I know we've talked about some things that were discussed in the state government. Is that what's affecting us?
Not yet, no. So
I
that's
couldn't
not
imagine
in
it would
effect
happen
yet.
that fast.
You know, the grocery sales tax, and again, we don't know what the language specifically is going to say on the ballot yet, but that'll be this fall. Whether that impacts municipalities or not, or and to what degree, we don't know. We've been seeing either slowed growth or negative growth over the last several months. Enough that it's starting to worry us to a certain degree, but we also had, did we get an answer on that?
So they do that until they know that it's
So we don't
legit.
have it yet.
No, we did get 48,000 though, so
Okay.
that might have been part of it.
So we had a sales tax payment from the state in May that was minus approximately $24,000. That was withheld, so Denise had checked in with DOR on that, and that was something that they do when they have a new taxpayer. They need to validate information, verify that they're actually in the municipality, so on and so forth. We only know of one new sales tax generated in the last few months, and that would be El Mariachi. So my hope is that whatever they're doing keeps working, and then that is where it came from. They don't give us that specific information though. They won't even tell us what sector it's from. My guess is we'll have to see that on a future crystal report that they issue. So we're gonna keep watching it though, because if that's the case, that's only about 2.5, 3 months worth of sales. That's significant.
Yeah,
So, of course, 2% on food, 3% on alcohol. So,
it's a pretty solid get right for us.
yes.
Good.
Sam's trying to call.
Call Sam in quick, thank you. Hey, Sam. You hear us okay? Sam, can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're just following up if there's any other discussion on the consent agenda. Otherwise, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing that there's none, we'll do roll call. Welch?
Aye.
Mauer?
Aye.
Doherty?
Aye.
Swear?
Aye.
Van Drill?
Aye.
Bowers?
Aye.
All right, and motion does carry. On to the next item, there is no old business, so we'll move on to new business. So we'll allow some discussion in regards to, before we ask for a motion, just in case that directs kind of where we're going with it. But the first item is the Central Basin 4 project change order number 3.
Good evening, everyone. We packed together change order number 3 for the project. This has 2 items on it that the contractor is presenting to us. First being a time extension. They've asked for a time extension through the end of August 30th. It has a lot to do, they provided a letter in there if you had a chance to look at it. But
They went in pretty good detail as to what they ran into with utilities.
Yep.
And the railroad.
Yep, and so I fully support what they're saying. I agree they've had some delays out there and would recommend that we approve the extension. With the rain we've gotten, I could see, I think before the rain, they probably felt pretty good about the August 30th date. I think now they might be, even late on that, but we'll monitor that as we go. And the contractor's been doing a great job of being out there and working and doing everything they can every day, so we wanna try to work with them in that case.
Even Saturday, they were out there by 8 or so, by
Yep.
de-watering everything after the storms, so.
So, like I said, we've been happy with everything, and we just wanna keep a good working relationship out there with them. The other item is railroad flagging, which is with their contract, that's an unknown when they, so when they're crossing the railroad tracks, they had to put water and sewer crossings under there. Part of the BNSF requirements is BNSF requires a contractor to hire an inspector and a flagger, so that person, BNSF representative, can be out there to watch the trains and clear the tracks when the trains come through and make sure everything's safe. The permit owner has to pay for those fees, and you guys being the permit owner, those come back to you. In this case, it came through the contractor first, and the contractor's requesting reimbursement for them. So that's what we're adding to the contract here. So that's the $76,000. So if there's any questions, I can sure answer them.
I, for one, am glad we had flaggers out there for the 2 trains today, but we see them.
Any other questions for Mitch?
What would you expect the water delay now at this point? If August 30 is gonna be a question because of this situation?
I think middle September is still probably a good bet. The other thing that the contractor's done is they've cut the phasing down into smaller pieces up there for us at our request. Simply that Rumble Drive, if you go up there, is a horseshoe, and there's not a lot of places to park up there, so it's just, they've been working with us to try to make sure people can have better access. So that's part of them working with us and us working back with them. But I would say middle of September, I think would still be a safe bet right now.
Yeah, no, Nate and I were up, it was that Thursday last week, we were up there, and I was definitely impressed at how they got the big mats down and giving people the best access, I guess, that they could.
I think that's a good example of how motivated these guys are to get this job done too. I think it was Wednesday night before it started raining, they got all that stuff done. And Mike put the kids to bed and came back out and ran the grader, which he used to do often, does not do often anymore. But there he was making it work. So
Trying to get it sealed up before the rain, so.
Motion to approve Central Basin 4 project change order number 3.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Central Basin 4 project change order number 3. Since this is dollar amount 2, we'll do roll call. Doherty,
Aye.
Bowers,
Aye.
Vendrill,
Aye.
Mauer,
Aye.
Welch,
Aye.
and Swear.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Item B is taken off the agenda, so we'll go to item C, resolution 2024-620-401. Resolution of commitment for South Dakota DOT Community Access Grant application. Nate?
Mayor and Council, I apologize, the memo isn't in your packets, but I'll go through it here now. We are pursuing a grant for replacement of the pavement on Oriole Avenue, down by the high school, Wilson Trailer and Sioux Steel. As anyone who's driven that can tell, it's well beyond its useful life. Condition of the street is very similar to that of Main Street a few years ago. You'll recall we repaved a section of South Main from 44 to just south of Oriole with concrete instead of the existing asphalt. Record drawings for Oriole in 2005 indicated pavement thickness of 5 inches. Current design standards call for an asphalt depth of 6. In short, the street's no longer useful and just plain needs to be replaced, albeit far sooner than should have happened. Initial estimates for the project are coming in around $1.1 million for concrete. We estimate engineering construction fees of approximately $225,000 or about 20% for a total cost of $1.325 million. This grant will cover up to $500,000 of that cost, leaving us to come up with the remaining $825,000. Our public financing framework guidance gives us a few options for financing this project. One is special assessments, the other is second penny fund, and the third is street maintenance fund. With regard to special assessments, it does say that we'll utilize grants and TIF funding to the extent possible in the industrial park. Please note that the purchase and development agreement with Wilson Trailer from several years ago indicates or dictates that no special assessment will be charged to that property owner. And that's approximately 25% of the project. So that leaves about 2,000 feet to special assess against property owners, including the city of Lennox. Assuming a per foot price of $75, which might be low, but it's a little bit higher than the current assessment price, we can fund approximately $150,000, so we leaves us with less than $700 to find elsewhere, which is where the kind of tricky part begins. Fund 220, the street maintenance fund, we've really reserved that for upcoming slurry seal projects and future mill and overlay projects. So I prefer not to touch that at this time, just to build that balance up for when we do need those funds for mill and overlays. So it really leaves us with second penny as a primary funding source. So we can either use some of the fund balance or cash for the project, or I can finance it as a source of revenue for a project's debt service. I don't want to use a ton of cash for this project, and we do have other projects this year and next that will reduce that budget or that balance already, and we've worked pretty hard to build up that balance. We do have funds remaining this year in our previous year's sales tax bonds. So remember, we used that for the purchase of the ironing land, South Main Street. We had one other project, I can't remember what else it was. We used it to fund the special assessments on South Ash Street as well.
Oh, that's right.
So because we sold that ironing land quickly, we still got a balance in there of approximately $500,000. New revenue next year will build that up more. So I'd recommend using the remaining sales tax bond proceeds and some cash from next year's budget if we do get awarded this project. We do have 2 years to complete the project, so we do have some time to figure out precisely how we want to finance this. I recommend we apply for the grant, as it's kind of the cornerstone for this project. If we don't get it, I don't know what we're going to do. If we do get it, I think we can find a game plan for it to come up with the additional funds that we'll need. So I'll readily admit that I'm uneasy financing such a large project on second penny fund at this point, but at the end of the day, we really don't have much choice. I mean, this has to be done. This is a key industrial road, it serves the middle and high school. We can't afford to do nothing, so we have to afford to do something. So with no, maybe Ryan can speak to this a little bit, or Josh. We can let Ryan sit down. Josh can start talking now, I suppose. Sure. I know GLED did tour Sioux Steel and Wilson Trailer last month, and both of them mentioned the condition of the road. So, if you want to talk about what SNGA's working on
Yeah,
that.
so we worked with Wilson Trailer to get a letter of support for the grant application. Like Nate mentioned, that road's used a lot by them, and it's just beyond its useful life.
Kind of give some color on those visits, when they were asked questions about, you know, their assessment of the quality of local services, infrastructure, utilities, everything was fine, except they both specifically mentioned Oriole Avenue, specifically. And so, I think Wilson, I know, has the letter of support, we're trying to get to Sioux Seal, but they usually take a little bit more time getting back to us on this sort of thing, so.
I have a couple of concerns just going forward with this project. Now, I know we're looking at a grant application and it'll be a while before we start, but first, in an industrial area, is 6-inch asphalt, is that standard? With the traffic that we're gonna have in that area? And then my next question is, with the school doing so much, having so much truck traffic with their construction, would it make sense to wait until they're finished with that project?
Can I talk about the truck traffic?
Yeah, you go with it.
We think that they'll be close to wrapping up in that time frame. Obviously, we don't know what their construction schedule is gonna look like next summer. But we should be able to send them down South Main instead of Oriole, which has been their primary route already. Most of their truck traffic is taking South Main already. If we award this project next year as well, DOT is working on South Highway 17 widening. So this would time up well with working with their approach and their engineers as well. So I'm not terribly concerned about the truck traffic, but it is something that certainly in the back of our minds.
And then if an improvement that we do, we'll probably look at concrete, and on Main Street with an 8-inch concrete slab. So that's probably what we would recommend again, that stretch of road.
That's what our cost estimate that they shared with us is based on 1.1. That's
Based on concrete.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about 6-inch asphalt. I thought-
Just how it was built against our current
Previously,
standard.
okay.
Yeah, you do have a standard that allows 6 inches asphalt for a road like that, but I just think you should bump it up a little bit like you did on Main Street.
I think Main Street turned out wonderfully.
Yeah.
With, I don't know how much truck traffic it takes to cause a lot of wear and tear, but would it make sense to allow the school to use Oriole Avenue before we fix it instead of putting all that traffic on Main?
I think if you put that traffic on, it'll destroy that road. I think they need to stay on Main Street. Main Street can handle it, it's built to take that traffic. And if you put much anything on Oriole, I think it'll just rot and disintegrate on you.
Some of those, I don't even know if I could call them potholes, because they're kind of large street potholes, but
Yeah.
I know Brian's crew can speak a little bit to some of the difficulty of maintaining that street in the winter, given some of those challenges too.
And we kind of went through it on Main Street too, and we were hauling the dirt that went out there from these projects. That street was asphalt back then, if you remember, it blew up and it blew up, and we're constantly patching it, and I just would expect it to be the same.
Well, let's, I think we need to move forward with the request for the grant, community access grant application, so I'll make a motion to approve that resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the grant application. Any other final discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. On to the next item. Water and sewer utility financial policies.
Mayor and Council, as part of our agreement with AGR Engineering on the rate study, the contractor provided draft financial policies for water and sewer utilities. Those policies are included in your packet for your approval tonight. In summary, they include new reserve targets for us to build into our revenue and expense models, including operating, capital, bond reserve, rate stabilization, target debt service, among others. Also included in the policy are requirements to conduct annual analysis on revenue requirements, cost of service, and rate design, all the things, all the pieces that built that rate study that we're working on to do that annually. While we know that our utilities will not hit all of these targets right away, we have every intention to work towards them in the interest of our long-term utility stability. Recommend a motion to approve water and sewer utility financial policies.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for water and sewer utility financial policies. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion does carry. On to the next item, E, purchase of real property.
Mayor and council, two properties of interest have become available on the market in the past week, with both offering an opportunity to improve our park system. So for quite a while, we've talked about the lack of park availability near Westerman Park, particularly on the east side of the park on Main Street. Next, we've got a lot of events in the park, or tournaments, parking's at a premium. It's not uncommon to see parking up towards, as far as 4th Avenue for some of our larger events. The properties that have become available are adjacent to the new swimming pool parking lot and 6th Avenue. Previously used for multifamily housing, I believe many years ago, the properties that were there were condemned and demolished. That's before my time. Billy, do you remember that?
Yeah, I have a vague recollection.
Given the dimensions of the lot, in discussions with LADC, they just don't know that it would work for what they would do for multifamily, even though that's what it's zoned for right now. They agreed that the city purchasing lots for future parking makes sense. So details on those two lots, the properties are both on 6th Avenue and Main Street. Total of about a quarter acre as a whole, and price of $55,000. Mapped out those two properties in the memo. Tonight I'm asking for the authorization to secure a buyer's representation through a licensed realtor. That'd probably be Cherie Seanan, who we've worked with in the past, and to start negotiations for the property. Don't necessarily want to have a price on that tonight, but just to get some numbers.
Absolutely, let's move forward with the investigative process and get representation in that conversation.
The prices on the lot, were these private party or is it a realtor that?
Being represented by a realtor ahead.
Correct.
Hey, has a sign up.
John Hang, I believe is the name of the realtor.
Yeah, do we have a motion for that?
I don't think we need one.
No.
We just need to tell him.
Since I'll be entering into a contract for representation, I think we
I'll
probably
make a
should have
motion to authorize Nate to move forward with securing a realtor to negotiate on behalf of the city for those properties.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. And motion does carry. Next agenda item, we will have just discussion. Nate, I'll let you kick it off here with us discussion and some reports for the storm.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think given that Harold's probably lower on sleep than any of us, we'll probably have to let him go first and get that on with his life. Harold unfortunately doesn't get to oversee just one community. He gets to oversee the whole county when it comes to these events. And called tonight and was able to join us and provide some information on what's happened and what's next.
Could you let people know your name that are watching online too and your
Yes,
position?
good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Harold Timmerman. I'm the Lincoln County Emergency Management Coordinator. I actually live a mile and a quarter north of Lennox, right on the 4-H grounds on the west side. And some of you have some new faces in here, you may not know me, so it's good. I try and greet councils on a or on an annual or biannual basis so I can meet everybody and you have a face to a name. And I have been involved in the community on the fire department and the ambulance squad and commercial club and so forth in the past. And I hear Denise is gonna abandon us. So, welcome the new administrator too, yes, so, good. And I just come, in my office, Nate says I oversee, but I don't. I'm a coordinator. For cities, I try and get us outside resources should we need them in an event like we just had. Evidently, things didn't go badly here, but nobody wants that much rain at one time. But until we learn how to control Mother Nature, we don't have a lot of choice. And if we could control her, we'd goof that up too, I think, so. Somebody would want rain and somebody wouldn't. In this past year now, we've updated our pre-disaster mitigation plan. And Lennox was a part of that, and I think the approval came through CCOG, they helped us with that, which makes the applicants available to get money from our pre-disaster fund and peer. 15% of each disaster declaration gets put in that fund. And entities can then apply for funding through that. It's like an 80-20 match. And it is a lot of paperwork to get something funded, but it's sometimes worth going after. And I can direct you to the people in our office to take care of that should you choose to do that. And of course, last week it did happen to rain. It rained a lot here in this area. Camp got up to 20 inches of rain. And it happened there twice on Thursday evening and then again on Friday evening. And my office is in the basement of the courthouse in the newer part. And it got flooded real good, as did our dispatch center. Water came in there. The water in the park north of the courthouse was deep enough that it went over the window wells, and it was more water than they've ever seen there before. We had to sandbag the door that comes into my part of the building there, we have carpet in there, and it's flooded before, so I'm hoping we'll rip the carpet out and put in tile instead. Easier, sometimes they've been trying to work on a process to fix that, but haven't gotten to the bottom of all of it yet, so. Then, when this happens now, we're probably gonna be eligible for a disaster declaration. I've got the townships and some of the cities too, if they had damage they wanna report, working through a new system called Crisis Track. It's way better than the paper system we've used in the past, and it'll eliminate probably a FEMA rep coming down to visit the city or the townships. And we've had some issues with that in the past, mainly language barriers. And then when they transition one person out to another one, some of the information would get lost, so we've had a lot of trouble with that process, and our office in Pier has been very good about replacing those people and helping us through that. So this new system, you can, as an example for the townships, they have a damaged area on a gravel road, they can go out there with their phone and map that area to give them the GPS points. They can start at one end of it, go to the other end and hit stop, and it'll give them the distance, it will tell them the approximate cost to fix that if they need road base or gravel. And if there's culverts or bridges involved, there's a part of that they can get onto also. For the city, I'm not sure what all your damages were here.
We're gonna have a lot of expense for time, for labor. Obviously, a lot of our staff were on far longer than they normally would be, so we're gonna have a lot of overtime. Equipment rentals for pumps. We will have some gravel loss. I think we've already ordered trucks. Yeah. We're gonna have gravel trucks here as soon as Wednesday morning.
Did you document the damage you had on the roads?
Kyle's taking some pictures. Ryan's taking some pictures.
Before you do anything with it, because some of the townships too, we've gotta get these roads smoothed off so they're usable.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, make sure you document that with pictures before you do something. Then even if you gotta replace a culvert to get that road usable again, do that. And then we can get it all entered into the crisis track system, so. And I don't know if anybody from the city is on it yet,
I don't think so, I haven't seen anything on it, so.
Okay,
if you
I'll
can
send you
that
some
info.
information tomorrow. You need a MySD account,
Okay.
email account, and then I can get you in there under the city.
Perfect.
Then you can add other people as you choose,
Perfect.
so.
That'd be great. I know the last event we had was 19, if I remember right, 44,
Yeah.
40.
Yep.
And that was, it was a process. We had several visits with FEMA reps.
Right.
And as much as I love my friends over at FEMA, because I have worked with a number of them for a long time, I prefer not to have to work directly with a rep and just be able to send in documentation.
We
I
actually
think we
looked
would
at-
both prefer that.
We actually looked at the spreadsheets today.
Oh, really?
From FEMA,
Yeah.
from what we did in
Yeah.
19.
In 19.
Yeah.
This
It'd
will
be
get,
great if we could get Carly to integrate Crisis Track with our app too. It's just a link at least to to be able to go out to the website and track.
Is this for individual assistance as well, or just public assistance?
Well, I got a deal today where I can send to you through the city. I'm gonna do it for Ken and some of the rural people too, where they can go on that site and then they can document in there, is it your full-time home? You know, I want the value of your home, you have insurance, there's a lot of questions. They can fill that out and hit submit, and that'll be in crisis track for us.
So does that build the preliminary damage assessment for them?
Yes, they may have, I'm not sure on that, I haven't gotten that far into that one yet, because I just got it today and my phone's been going nuts, so. When you get past 120 phone calls in a day, why, you gotta stop
A
somewhere.
little bit of a buzz at that point.
Anyway, but, I'll send that link to Nate also, so you can spread that out to the people in the city here too.
I think it's important to make a note of the distinction between public assistance and individual assistance. So public assistance is what comes to governments, reimburses us for the expenses and damages we have as a public agency. There's also individual assistance, and we'll probably, if we're going to be getting to that threshold, we'll probably get a fact sheet out there from FEMA or DPS on what individual assistance is like and what it does and doesn't do. I don't want people to get the wrong idea of what the federal government will and will not come in to help with, because it's not what everybody thinks.
Even if you do get individual assistance, it doesn't do a lot.
Right.
It will give you some help, but it won't make you whole. It won't cover all your expenses.
Yes,
We tried to get it in 2014, and unless it did damage to the structure, it doesn't qualify. So a basement full of sewage and water, they don't care. So it has to do damage to the structure before it'll be considered in the individual assistance part, so. It's kind of a complicated thing, and I believe we did get it in 2011 statewide, when Dakota Dunes got flooded so bad, and Pierre and Fort Pierre got flooded so bad. So, but that's the only time that I can really remember that we've ever gotten it, so. We don't want to go through all that again either. So. Any questions that any of you might have for me while I'm here regarding the rain we had, the declaration, or just things in general? Like I said, I'm not that far away, and
Do you have any stats of like, was this the biggest rain since when? Or like you hear the terms like 100-year storms or 50-year storms, like where did this rank in?
I'm guessing you're gonna have to get up to 500 here. Because I don't know, nobody in Canton's ever had that much rain before. The river's never been as high in Canton as it was. It's down now, so. In the creek west of town here, that was pretty wide. I haven't been by it today, but I'm sure it's down some.
Back within the banks.
Oh, yeah, see, so it is going down, but it's a slow process. And when you look at our agricultural fields, it's devastating. I've got a field south of Chancellor by the Vermilion River, it's 97 acres, and I think I got 7 left. Everything's underwater, so it's a goner. And nothing you can do about it, so.
Harold and I were talking before the meeting. He was in North Sioux City for a while, then in 2011 flood. I was in Sioux City at the time working different side of that. And I'm sure you heard at the time, but all of us at the time were saying, we'll never see this again. And the crest in Sioux City and North Sioux City today was, I think, 5 feet higher than the 2011 crest. So we've definitely seen it again. That's how big this issue was, this storm.
I'm part of the state incident management team, is why I worked in Pierre and Fort Pierre and Dakota Dunes in 2011. So. And we started that in 2007, and we've been to, I think the last big event we worked with maybe the Delmont tornado. We worked a week there and get those folks through that. So, but we're going to be working with this for quite some time to get this disaster declaration in place, and I'll present it to the county commission, hopefully at the meeting after the one tomorrow, and have them declare a disaster within Lincoln County, which then gets taken to the governor's office, and that gets forwarded on to the president. And if he's in a good mood, he'll say yes, and if he doesn't want to, he can say no, we don't want to do that. So it's up to him. If we have enough damage and show enough need, I'm sure he'll probably grant it. They've been pretty good in the past. So.
So when you say you have enough damage and show enough need, would it be valuable then for us to have some type of inventory system of residents that have been affected, and how do we differentiate between public and individual assistance when we're taking that inventory?
Well, the individual assistance they'll have to do on their own with the form that I'm gonna send Nate. Each homeowner will have to do that. The public assistance would cover some of your gravel like you've been talking about, or any damage to your public infrastructure. There are two separate items within the disaster declaration.
So if it's on an individual property, it
Yes.
won't be included in the public assistance, correct?
No,
Correct.
no.
I just wanna have some resources for residents, so they know the difference, I guess, between the public and individual, and how that differs from doing an insurance claim.
I looked for a few items on the FEMA site today, and I didn't find anything that's just a solid one-page FAQ, but we'll keep searching, and we'll get that out as soon as we can.
I've had people call me that have had their basements full of water and sewage, and their insurance company said, see ya. We won't help you because it's flood. And that's the way they do it, so. Not a nice thing, but that's the way they operate. And even if you have flood insurance, you know, through the flood insurance program, which Lennox is part of, the county is also, you know, it doesn't give you a lot of help, but it gives you some help. Anything is better than nothing, but when you're looking at a totally bad basement and all the damage that's with it and the effort it takes to fix it, you know, it's kind of disheartening when it doesn't get covered better. Any other questions?
Thank you for your expertise and experience in helping us through this process.
Yeah, and you know, Lennox this time is pretty fortunate. T and Harrisburg didn't have much for damage either. We filled a lot of sandbags in Canton, and they filled a bunch in T for people to come get as they needed them, and that's all a volunteer process. We're fortunate to have the volunteers we do have, even though it's getting harder to get volunteers. Every entity that's volunteers having the same issue nationwide. We're pretty fortunate on the fire department here. I've been a member there since 1970, so. And we have a pretty good bunch and some newer people coming on. A lot of towns don't have that, and they're struggling. You know, with the ambulance crews too, when we started this one in '74, it was all volunteer. Now we have paramedics, and thankfully we do, because it's a godsend when you have somebody that needs attention. So we're fortunate to have the ambulance squad here, we're fortunate to have the fire department we got here, and the city employees that we have too. So.
We're certainly thankful for the fire department in the middle of the night when we needed another pump. Brandon Klinger was there at about 2:30 a.m. on Friday morning to help us secure yet one more pump. So
one thing I will touch on is throughout this whole episode with the rain, we've done about 22 rescues of people that have driven around barricades and driven into water, and their vehicle was stalled, and there they sit. They called dispatch and said, can you get somebody to come get us? We've done it with boats, we've done it with fire vehicles when we could, we've done it with heavy farm tractors. Lennox was out on a call on 469 south of 18, where a gentleman was out there, didn't speak a lot of good English, drove out there and his vehicle stalled. Couldn't get out there with pickups or a fire truck, so Brock Overstrad brought his big tractor, and my grandson and him went out there with life vests and ropes. We got up there on the downside of the current, and we were able to get that gentleman out of there and get him back. So, we had a lady Sunday morning drove into the Sioux River. Kia was floating in the water, and she was able to get out and cling to a tree until we could get a boat there. So there's been all kinds of, and most of these have been totally unnecessary, where people drive where they shouldn't, and they expect somebody to come help them, and we do the best we can. So today I had to take our drone out south of Canton. There's a vehicle out in the field a ways, and they couldn't get out there with a GF&P boat, so I took the drone, and I've got a tremendous zoom on there. I got up there and we could see right inside that car that nobody was in there. That's what they were trying to make sure, that nobody was still in there. And we couldn't see anybody. I couldn't quite get zeroed in to get the VIN number off the dash, but I could get close.
I think we first used that thing with Tornado here, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time we deployed it.
Well,
Quite a drone pilot since.
We've had it a while, so we've used it several times, and we use it a lot in search and rescue and life safety issues. Good. Any other questions before I bug out of here? Get get out of your hair.
Go get some rest.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah,
for
I got a good night's sleep last night, but I started about 4:30 again in the morning. All of a sudden, Fox Weather in New York was on my case about 6:30 this morning, so I had to deal with them for a little bit. Other than that, they're going fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, you wanna take the next one?
Yeah, what do you wanna know?
Streets.
How important is a street sweeper ahead of an event like this?
We tried to have the street sweeper out, we like to have it out when it's raining, that way we don't have to continue filling all the time.
When it's raining, not pouring.
Exactly, at some point the water, it just fills the water and then nothing really happens. I don't know at what point we figured out that it wasn't gonna be, worth it. I guess at that point, none of us really knew what was to come in the next couple days.
Any way, you guys can keep those sewer lines open, the drains and storm drains?
Yeah,
The street sweeper plays a huge role ahead of an event like
absolutely,
this.
and
throughout the
before, during, and after, we had, people out. Sometimes you get lucky on some of them, and there'll be a trash bag already hanging on it, you can just pick it up and start throwing everything in there. I think some of the lower lying areas of town, that's our focus, the ones that don't have the newer infrastructure. But when it comes to trying to get the water out or trying to keep it flowing, we did what we could until we couldn't see it anymore. And then by that time, it was everybody's doing something else to help out where they could. Overall, the streets didn't look too bad. Afterwards, we did have a lot of washed out gravel on West 4th, which we're not entirely sure how much it's gonna take to get back. Right now, we have scheduled roughly 200 tons. We could probably do double that, but we're gonna start with that and see how far we get. Other than that, the rest of the gravel surfaces that we maintain, they're relatively flat, so there's a few potholes that we'll tackle. The alleyways, those become a concern, and I think sometimes when we're trying to work on bigger streets, they can get neglected longer than we would prefer. But then areas like the access to the water plant, having to go through the back way, that's really only for emergencies, which this was. There are shin high ruts all the way through there, so we got pictures of that, and everything else that we're gonna try to hopefully make much better for the next time. Sometimes you don't know what a good solution is until you're in the worst spot and time. So I think moving forward we have some improvements to make for sure. But I would have never liked to see the things that we had to see the last few days. But now we know. I guess sometimes that's what needs to happen for those solutions to come about. But other than that, I think we're going to try to continue on as we were. With the asphalt schedule. I think some of it's probably going to get pushed back a little bit. A lot of us are making sure that Kyle has every resource that he needs to maintain what we need to. And then shortly after that, we're going to shift to the parks and help Drew. When it rains this much, it grows 5 inches every day. And when it rains consistently throughout the weeks, I compared it to the snow we had a couple years ago. By the time I got done with the bulk of the stuff and was able to move on to the smaller stuff, I had to start all over. So I think that's some of where the disconnect is coming from. But we're definitely doing what we can to try to catch up to where we need to be, and then hopefully the rain will be more normal for the rest of the summer and we can have a better schedule without having to wait 2 days for it to stop raining and then do some and then it rains again. So that's where we're at in the streets and the parks as of right now. So
With the emergency access road to the wastewater treatment facility, let's make sure that gets documented, everything that we need to do to make
Absolutely,
that right,
yeah.
so we can put that as part of our, emergency declaration
Yeah.
findings.
Once the water goes down on the main access, we'll make sure we get, I'm planning on taking a whole damage tour tomorrow, just taking
Yeah.
pictures of everything we've got, any possible damage, including, we know there were some issues at the museum, but we don't have really good documentation of what they might have been, because we weren't there. But, yeah. And I don't know that I'd call it an emergency access road,
Not,
the Subaru wouldn't make
That's-
it through there, right?
that's what it turned into, yeah, and I think Kyle and I spent enough time together the last few days that we had some very good suggestions on what is needed, and we had some even better suggestions on what we want,
Yeah.
but those
Nice.
are two very different things.
Yeah. How about, pumps and such, with, having our own giant pumps?
Yeah.
Instead of having to try and go community to community.
Buying at least one of the pumps we rented this
Yeah,
last weekend, so.
we do own 6-inch that I'm sure Kyle's gonna.
Kyle's
speak
talked
on
about
some
it.
of
Yeah,
this. We rented 2 4-inch pumps, 2 3-inch pumps. We had a 2-inch, and then fire allowed us to use one of their 2-inch pumps. And I spoke with the gentleman at Beersbach in Sioux City. We had to go all over the country to try to get these last second. But we're gonna most likely purchase one of the 4-inch pumps now that we kind of know when something this bad happens, where it's going to get the worst. So he sent me over quotes for that, so we'll work together on possibly getting one of the 2 that we had rented up here. I also spoke to him today. There's no real access to get to Sioux City, so he said he would.
You might as well keep it.
Yeah, he can let me know if there's another community around us that needs it. We could certainly take it over there. We no longer have a road use for it right now, so.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a part of the same emergency, yeah, thank you. Anything about, our infrastructure with the wastewater treatment facility that needs to be expanded that could be a part of the scope?
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll wait for Kyle.
Well, I don't know that Kyle's gonna get into a bunch of that, I'll answer a little bit of that now. Harold was talking about the state hazard mitigation grant program, Southwood National Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, because we were part of that planning process, we're eligible for that as well. And so, I've already talked to Mitch about I think we were supposed to have an engineering meeting next week, I'm gonna be gone for it, but we'll move it to the next week probably. And included in that, we're gonna discuss improvements to the wastewater plant in terms of emergency storage, and other improvements that we could use to, when a situation like this arises. I think we handled it very well, but there was a lot of running around trying to get pumps and make other adjustments. And I think when you're in the heat of the moment, especially when it's all coming at you, you don't want to be in a situation where you've got to think, okay, what now? We want set processes for when things happen in the future. So there's a couple of ideas that Kyle had that I thought were great that the state apparently doesn't allow us to do anymore, which is unfortunate. That Sioux Falls gets to do it, but nobody else. But there's some options, and I think we're going to. I've already got the Federal Hazard Mitigation Grant project opening on my radar for this fall. So.
Now, 14, 19, 24, 300-year floods in a decade. I think we need to reclassify and plan accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Kyle?
Okay.
Now for the really fun part.
You'll have to excuse me though, I've been pretty busy the last couple of days, so I had to put this together fairly quickly. But it's got some.
He actually went through the process of creating a PowerPoint, which none of us actually took the time to do, so I'm pretty impressed.
All right, let's see. So, I just kind of did a timeline, and then I'll go through some of the math that kind of like breaks down how much water came through the system, how much we had to discharge, and some tidbits at the end. So the timeline, so before the storm, Sunday through Tuesday, that would have been 6/17 through 6/18. Sorry, my dates are wrong, but Sunday and Tuesday, the wastewater treatment plant was already dealing with 3 inches of rain from the previous weekend. The wastewater plant was going in on a high level already. Average flows into that plant at that time was already close to 400 to 600,000 gallons. Typically, dry weather, per day is about 150 to 300 gallons a day. So that's our average usage from just residents, not including infiltrated, I&I water. Thursday, 6/20, the heavy rainfall began around noon. By 1:30 p.m., the plant was already seeing a significant amount of flow. So by an hour and a half, I was already seeing it come into the system, and it was coming fast. It was triggering water alarms in the basins and diverting flow already into the storage pond, so the wastewater plant was already overloaded in an hour and a half. So at that time, it triggers a high level alert, so what it does, it'll close that influent valve. The plant can no longer take it, and it's diverting it to those storage ponds to the north. We have 2 storage ponds there that are active right now. I had to open up the 3rd one that was used as a storage for old sludge when the old lagoons were cleaned out, to try and dry that out for landfilling, but I had to open it. So that one had to be opened. So at about 1:30, that's when I started to notice that high water coming through, diverting into the storage pond. I attempted to adjust the cycle time to try to treat this water, but I didn't realize how much water we were going to get. So I attempted to activate some cycle times and manually run decanters and pumps to move as much water through the plant as possible. By 6 p.m., it was determined I could no longer run the system without risk of completely wiping out that plant. The active bacteria would have been gone. I would have flushed them out. I would have pretty much killed the entire plant. And then at that point, we're looking at complete reseeding. It would have, it would have been pretty much rinse, erase and start over.
Wow.
So, continued. So that was about 6. I determined I could no longer try to even treat this water. It's all gonna have to go to the storage. 8:30, I began calling local rental services to require pumps. I noticed that the rain was not stopping and the forecast was continuing.
That was on the 20th?
Yep, this is
When we were
Thursday.
forecast to get a half-inch of rain?
Yes.
Right.
So at 8:30, I started seeing the significant rain, started calling local rental services to acquire pumps I could after hours. So this is at 8:30, everything's closed. I did get a hold of Sunbelt customer service, nationally customer service person, and they gave me a phone number to a guy that actually lives in Lennox, Chris Thorson. So shout out to Chris. He's not here, but he left home with his kids to come and open up the doors at Sunbelt to allow me to get 2 3-inch pumps that night. So thank you, Chris.
Awesome.
Yep. At this time, about 8:30, all the lift stations are keeping up, but like I said, the wastewater treatment plant is not. So all that water is being pushed to the storage ponds, and those levels are rising quickly. The 2 pumps that I acquired from Sunbelt were set up in preparation for emergency discharge. So those 2 3-inch pumps that I acquired were set next to the holding ponds, and the discharge hose was going to go into where the rubble site is. As well as the 6-inch trash pump that we have, I set that up at the main lift station in preparation for the rain event, knowing that the lift station is soon about to be overloaded. If you drive by the lift station there on 7th, you'll notice that I think last year I had a permanent pipe installed in that, so crews or staff didn't have to haul around 6-inch hard pipe, which is very heavy, and that lift station is 32 foot deep. So you need a lot of hose, and it's not a one-man job. You need people, and it's dangerous. So I had that permanent pipe installed, which worked out awesome. One person can drive up that pump, put a section of 10-foot hose on it, and then just let it lay flat go.
Nice
So
work.
that worked out good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked. So I set up the 2 3-inch trash pumps for emergency discharge out of the holding ponds, and then got the 6 trash pumps set up for the main lift station. And then holding cell 3 gates were also open for additional storage. Holding cells levels began to rise greatly, and all lift station pumps were now running continuously. So in each lift station, there's 2 pumps. They alternate. One will turn on and one is off, so they switch. There's a float in there called a leg float. So when that water level gets to a certain point, it'll pick on both pumps. So at this point, all pumps are running and every lift station, 2 times, they're pushing everything they got.
Wow,
They can't push any more water. So this is about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So 12 a.m. Friday morning, I called in staff for assistance. So now, you know, I'm here by myself and I'm talking with Nate through this, but at midnight, it's time.
We're all awake.
So I called Brian in, thanks Brian for coming. I called in our on-call, Kevin, and Nate was also there to assist where we needed him, so. So at that time, I began emergency discharging from the holding ponds into Long Creek with those 2 3-inch pumps. The South Dakota Department of Ag and Natural Resources was notified immediately of that. 12:43 a.m., the high level alarms occurred at the main lift station, so now those 2 pumps that have been running constantly can no longer keep up, and now we're in a high level situation. The 6-inch bypass pump was then turned on, so now we're pushing water through that 6-inch pump onto 7th Avenue. 3:05 a.m., the north lift station by the railroad track started overflowing and was also underwater. We moved one of the 2-inch pumps from the discharge ponds over there to start getting rid of water out of that lift station, because when you open up a lift station hatch and you see water to the top, it usually means the basements are flooding with sewage. So we took one of the 3-inch pumps, began emergency discharging from there. Then we also took that one 2-inch pump that we have over there, and then also the one from Lennox Fire Department. So thanks, Brandon, for providing that at 3 a.m. At this time, it's 3, 4 in the morning. All staff are filling fuel tanks in reserve as quickly as possible. We're also setting up barricades in the street for flooded streets. So it's just chaos. I mean, it's just running gas, filling tanks, filling pumps.
Oh, yeah, and can't even imagine how much fuel you had to try and stay ahead.
Well, in the middle of this, we learned that there's a 4 swipe limit per day on our fleet card. So now we're, my credit card thankfully is working everywhere, so it's just going wherever the fuel truck goes. And
Wow.
yeah. So thankfully Jen came in on Saturday morning to help us work on that, and we figured it out. But
It
didn't
to find that limit.
right.
So now, as soon as the sun rises, I began calling for additional pumps I could find. I was calling Sioux Falls, Nate assisted calling Sioux City. So we did find, I called early that morning to Beersbach and Sioux Falls to get my name on a 6-inch pump as soon as they opened. Nate went and picked that up right away, and when they opened up, this 6-inch pump is going to be set up for the holding ponds because they're just going to start overflowing soon, so we need to get rid of that water quickly. So that's where that 6-inch was set up. The other 3-inch pumps that were pumping out of there were now moved to the north lift to help get some of that water moving out of that as well. 2 additional 4-inch pumps were secured from Sioux City. Nate also picked those up for us, so he must be before it flooded. So
Well, I-29 was, the drive there took forever.
Yeah, because at that point, I think
all 29 traffic was routed on 17.
Yeah, it was coming through Lennox, so yeah, that was. I also, in that morning, I published a notice to South Dakota WARN, which is the Water Wastewater Area Resource Network.
Yep.
That's what we kind of, I think we just
Reactivated this spring.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was a good time. You don't want to use it, but it's there. So what they do is they can assist with any pumps, labors. I was asking for any additional pumps, labor, generators. South Dakota area of water came out with a 6-inch pump. Unfortunately, it did not work. So we spent some time struggling with that. And then they bought a 4-inch pump, and that didn't work either. But I don't want that. But yeah,
we won't dwell on that.
Yeah, they gave us what resources they had. And also Lewis and Clark stopped out offering any labor assistance, so thanks to Lewis and Clark as well. So Friday afternoon around 2:30, the lift station levels were under overflow status, so they're no longer standing, wastewater up to the top, so they're keeping up now, but this is all due to the pumps the external pumps that we're having to pump out. All staff continue to move pumps around and maintain levels from overflowing, so we're just moving things around, like this should go here, this can go here, just to kind of even things out and get things back to maintain levels. And then Friday evening, said additional rain forecasted, so what we just did, we're gonna do it again. And Brian and I looked at each other and we're just like, we haven't slept,
Right.
and now we gotta do it again, and we're not gonna sleep again. So it was just, yeah, eye-opening, it was rough, it really was. So Brian and I did a game plan, organized for staff to 10 pumps all night, overnight, so we kinda said, you're gonna be here, doing this, and you'll be here doing this, and we'll be here doing this, so we kinda got a game plan put together. Saturday morning at 7 a.m., the north lift station was then able to keep up on its own. But often we were there, someone was there to enable the discharge pump frequently, just every so often. But still, both pumps are running this entire time. Mind you, like the lift station pumps are running constantly. Meanwhile, the emergency holding ponds were about to crest. So now the holding ponds are at their max limit. Each of the holding ponds hold about 1 million gallons. So that's rough. I don't know how deep they actually are. I just drew 6 foot, but I think they're deeper, so they probably hold more than that. Saturday at 5 p.m., the 6-inch main lift discharge pump was shut off. So now the 6-inch, the one on Main Street was shut off.
Well, the failure of the 2 pumps at North Lift.
Oh yeah, during the mix of it all, one of the pumps sucked up a float and cut the wire, which shorted out a fuse in the panel. So we had to have Hanish come out and kind of do some identification. So now we're just solely running on the discharge pumps. So Saturday by 5, the main discharge pump was shut off. So the wastewater, or the lift station was able to keep up, and we were stopped discharging on the 7th. As well as the north systems were shut off too. So now we're bringing all the pumps to the holding ponds to get those levels to drop. Saturday at 7 p.m., the holding cells dropped about 1 foot. We ran the 6-inch overnight with periodic visits that Saturday night.
What time, Saturday night, is the first time it dropped?
Yep, it started.
Noticeable.
But we also, we threw everything we had, so all the
Yeah,
pumps,
I think 7 pumps.
6, 7 pumps going
Wow.
all at the same time, just to drop that by 1 foot, and
Yeah.
it took a while. Let's see here. Sunday, we continue to pump out of the holding cells. All the stations now are keeping up, but running 2 pumps constantly, so we're still running max on each lift station. While still overflowing into the holding pond. So you gotta think all this water from the lift station isn't going into the wastewater plant, it's still going into the holding pond. So even right now, the plant is overloaded and it can't take it. So all this water that we're pumping is still going into the holding pond. The wastewater plant's been in high level since Thursday at 1, and it's still in high level. And I predict it's gonna stay in high level till maybe Friday.
Wow.
You get alarms every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours, I get a phone call on my phone.
All through the night.
I have to clear it manually from my phone. Monday, we continue to pump out of the holding ponds, but we returned the 2 3-inch pumps to Sunbelt. I'm only running the 1 6-inch pump from Beardsbach at the plant. We ran it all day today, but we're about 2 feet down now, so we can go home and shut the pump off and let it fill up. It'll probably fill up 6 inches overnight tonight, just because of how much water is still coming into the system. I anticipate discharge continuing throughout the week. Collected samples of discharge points for our SSO permit, so we do have the sanitary system overflow permit. We are allowed to bypass in situations like this, so it is not illegal. We have a permit that allows us to do it, so we are following all of the necessary steps that the state requires for this. So I just want to make sure that, we're following it, and I've been in communication with them a lot, so.
When did we learn, how many years back, that a permit like this is necessary?
Well,
It's always been necessary, I think.
Yeah.
We've always had it as long as we've had, certainly the plan,
Yeah.
probably before that as well.
I think it's built into most permits.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
So I communicate with the state, and then I just wanted to throw this out there, the DNR mentioned, every municipality southeast of Mitchell submitted an emergency discharge request.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
That's probably the most concentrated corner
Yeah.
of the state.
Incredible.
Yeah, that is, yeah, I heard that from him and I was like, so yeah, we're not the only ones, battling this. Some quick math, from Thursday, 6:20 at noon through Sunday, 6:23 at noon, the wastewater plant took in 6.4 million gallons. This is not, this is what the lift station delivered to the plant, so this is only what the lift station's delivering. This doesn't include in any of our discharge and emergency discharge.
Say that number again?
6.4 million gallons. Emergency discharge at the main lift was 2.5 million. Emergency discharge at the north lift was 1.2 million. Totaling 10.1 million gallons entering the sanitary sewer system in 3 days. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
As of 8 a.m. this morning, we emergency discharged 6.2 million out of the holding zones. So yeah, a lot.
It's just hard to get my
I
mind
know,
around.
it is, really, it's,
When you're watching 6 pumps move it though, it's just, I mean, even that, it's just, that is a lot of water.
yeah.
You're talking 2 4 inches, 2 6 inches, 2 2 inches, and another 6 inch.
Wow.
I just want to throw a tidbit out here to end it. 20 million gallons of water will fill 1 square mile, or 640 acres with 1 foot of water. With Lennox being roughly 1 square mile, we could have filled the entire town up with 6 inches of water, what just came through the sanitary sewer system.
Unreal.
The entire town, 6 inches.
Wow.
So, yeah, just want to throw that out there. I like to do them weird math calculations sometimes.
Hey, it gives us a visual.
Unless you're gonna do like wait for a fuel can to be filled.
So due to quick thinking and quick action, we save virtually every property in town for sewage in their basement. And I know, unfortunately, some lower basements did have some, but that's to expected with this event. So, yeah, I'll take any questions or comments.
It's
It's been a long couple of days.
how you holding up?
Good, I'm doing all right.
Good rest the last 2 nights at least,
Yeah,
right?
but I'll never forget when Brian and I looked at each other that Friday night and said, we gotta do this again.
Yeah.
That was,
Just a hug and a prayer.
yeah, that was rough.
So, how, with all the education you've gotten, all of the experience you've gotten, and all of the practical knowledge you've gotten, seeing all of this apply, all in one episode has to be somewhat satisfying.
It was when we started to maintain. You
Yeah.
know? When it was like an emergency disaster, there was, I don't know, I was almost choked in my throat most of the night. You know, I take such pride in that
Right.
wastewater plant, and to see it be just demolished, it was a little
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
But just imagine if we didn't have someone with your knowledge, where it would have been.
Right, and Brian alongside you,
Right.
grinding, I mean.
And not just Brian, Nate, and Andy, and Kevin, and Drew, I mean, they all
Yeah.
stepped up. I mean, Drew, you know, stayed overnight over there at that plant, or at the north lift, just putting gas in, checking levels, I mean.
Telling them Ramsey were running around
Yeah,
and stuff for
so,
us.
I mean, we had a great crew and everyone, and Andy he's sick with bronchitis.
Yeah, it felt like he was on death. That's what it was called.
And I know he feels terrible that he wasn't there the entire time, but he stepped up and he showed up and spent the night as well.
Solid team you guys have built,
Yeah.
and an impressive reaction and leadership it took
Yeah.
to make the calls, to have all those things ready to go, to know when and what levers to pull. You know, you might have been choked up, but there'd been a lot of people that would have frozen. So that's, I mean, kudos to you and the team for the efforts here. Incredible.
So if anyone needs those numbers, again, I'm more than willing.
If you put all that effort into a PowerPoint, I'd take a look at that.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
I'll make sure it gets around.
We should do a Lennox like a, you know, what, we do those articles. We should-
Infographic with all
We
the,
should do that.
yeah, we can have Carly do an infographic with all the numbers.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's just a little snapshot of what you saw, so, I mean, I can't even imagine what you guys experienced. So thank you so much for your heart and your willingness to serve. It means a lot to us as a community.
You kept saying we really should be writing down everything we're doing, just because you couldn't stop long enough to do any of it.
We would have had.
If you did, all your paper would win anyway, so.
We would have had more pictures, but 90% of it happened when we couldn't see it.
Yeah, right, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, my phone, speaker doesn't work anymore, it's wet completely.
Is it really?
Yeah. Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
In terms of overall flooding, most of it was confined to our flood-prone areas or the existing floodplain. Early Friday morning, I talked to Allie and Dustin McLeod, who are now managing Long Creek Park, and alerted them to some alarming stuff we were seeing on the west side of that park, and they were able to knock on some doors, get some folks voluntarily moved out. I think a number of them spent Saturday night voluntarily elsewhere as well. Some of the predictable areas, 3rd and Blaine, 1st and Garfield, 4th and Academy, which is a little bit of a surprise given that that's new storm sewer down there, but it's also, I really think, probably the lowest lying spot in central Lennox. Every intersection with Highway 44 in the southwest part of town, so Blaine, Garfield, Academy, and Elm, and then every intersection with Cleveland as well. We don't have any numbers on flooded basements. We're probably going to try and get some numbers this week, solid numbers on sewage in basements. We think right now less than 10, but we're not real confident in that. Because some reports came to us, we're hearing some secondhand, we just don't know. And at this point, a lot of that's cleaned up, so we can't really go and verify. So in terms of how our storm system behaved overall, we're pretty happy. Mitch and I think a few of you were out there on Boynton with us on Thursday night. We were putting barricades out. We do have some concerns upstream from there on the detention pond and countryside. The west side of Juniper really seemed to behave about what it should. Did you put high water stakes out there?
Yeah, Josh.
Okay, yeah, we saw high water stakes out there. I was walking through last night, and it looks, like it behaved like it was supposed to. But the one east of Juniper feels like it's overtopping early. It had a lot more room for storage, but it was already sending it down to that next detention pond next to Boynton on the driveway. So that's what we were seeing the overfill into Boynton from. But even that, Thursday night by 9 or 10 o'clock, it looked like it was really going down pretty good. I think it had stopped running through the street by that point. By 12 o'clock, it had filled back up again, unfortunately. But and then shortly after the rain stopped on Saturday morning, it cleared up pretty quick again as well. So,
Will we need to do any structural assessment of Boynton after the water had flown over it?
no, I don't. The flow was slowed well enough by the grass and everything else. I don't have any concerns there. The flow through the culvert looked great, nice and steady.
I mean, we do design the streets to handle that water. I mean, that's, when you look at your storm sewer system, it's only meant to handle a small storm event. The small storm event's meant to go underground through the piping system. And your street is designed to handle everything above that. So I know when we design streets, like if you look at Sioux Falls standards, we talked about this a little bit out on the project. They allow their streets to flood 18 inches, their main roads at a maximum. That's during what we call a 100-year event, which doesn't happen every 100 years. It's a chance of 1%. It's a 1% chance of happening in any given year. That's really what the definition of it is. But we design our standards to be 12 inches maximum. So any street that I've designed for you folks out here, I keep it so that it only will flood 12 inches. That's the most. And you could probably, like I said, Sioux Falls goes to 18, but if it gets deeper than that, you worry about car stalling in there. So, anyway, that's just something that we practice and how we put our plans together. So, when seeing Boynton, when you can see the top of curb, you can see that a little bit, that tells me it was 6 inches deep in that curb, and that's about the most it got. I think it probably overtopped the sidewalk that next night when I was there. That's probably.
It was over the sidewalk on the south side.
That might be where it gets to that 12 inches deep. But it's still safe, not that we want people driving through it, but it's still safe to drive through and not gonna get stalled. The emergency vehicles can still make their way through there. But anyway, just so you can understand a little bit about how we prepare for our designs for those.
Now that everything's pretty much gone down, we'll have a chance to, like I said, I'll do a full tour tomorrow with all the mosquitoes and everything, and see what's out there. But I think in terms of what I saw out there, in the last day and a half, everything looked pretty solid. Like, it doesn't look like we had any major erosion anywhere. There's some, if you look at the driveway next to the detention pond in Boynton, there's some erosion there, so I know he's asking if we can replace the rock, and, given that it's a flood event that is coming from countryside, we'll talk about it. I talked to Mitch about it a little bit already, but.
Are we concerned about debris in the inlets, any of the inlets?
Oh, yeah.
Or filled up?
Yeah, that's a concern.
Look into that too.
Yeah, and in that case, you've got a good upstream system. That's what those detention ponds help hold a few things back. You've also got probably a quarter-mile drainage there.
Yeah.
That's filled with trees and grass and all kinds of
one
other stuff
thing
that's gonna
about-
send water or other things down.
Usually when the water comes through, like it flushes everything out. So chances are it's all at the bottom of where it discharges. But before an event, these guys are taking the time to make sure the inlets are clear always, and I'm sure they get sucked out, once a year probably. And
They're pretty clean right now.
yeah, if it's during the fall, the worst thing could be leaves. If you have a bunch of leaves that are on top and get brushed into those are probably the worst things that cause issues.
Okay.
Back to the value of a good working street sweeper. Comes into play.
In terms of what's next, there's a lot of what's next. A lot of it's just crossing stuff off a list. Working with Harold and South Dakota Public Safety and trying to get our damage assessments done. There's not a whole lot of more information sharing we need to do in terms of making sure people have accurate information about the event. I think now it's turned to accurate information about recovery, and that's tricky. I mentioned earlier, a lot of people go into this. Let's say there is a presidential disaster declaration. Well, maybe it's just for public assistance and not people in households. Even if it is for households and individuals, it's not what you think it is. Nobody's just gonna get $5,000 from the government. That's not how it works. It's never been how it works. And so, those are things that we look at. In terms of the CIP, the capital improvement plan, it's working. And that's something I can't overstate enough. You look at Second and Cedar, First and Juniper, most of Central Basin 1. Had we not gone through, and Boynton as well, had we not gone through these projects, I don't think it's any overstatement to see that we would have dozens, if not over 100 homes severely damaged by floodwaters. We had folks stop us in each of those neighborhoods this week, grateful that these projects happened, grateful that they were in place, and grateful that they now had storm sewer in a modern community that was helping save their home and their property from major damage. I do think we need to continue forward with a lot of our capital improvement plan. I think if you look at the West Fourth project, that was some of our most troublesome area in terms of flooding. And all those intersections along Cleveland, which were not originally planned into that project, but I think really need to be considered at this point, given how much water is coming through. We're talking 2 to 3 feet of water that was rushing through there sometimes. We weren't even taking First Avenue to get to the street shop. We were taking Second or Third to get there because that was the only option.
Let me stop you for a sec. Would that be a joint project with the county?
It would probably have to be, unless we're at the point where it's time for us to take over Cleveland. I don't think we're quite at that point yet, so. But it is there right away, and we would have to work with them on permits and everything else. CIPs, and especially our CIP, we know it costs a lot of money. That money has to come from really only one place, and that's our taxpayers and our ratepayers and utilities. But I thought multiple times this weekend, if it comes down to me paying $10 or $15 more a month on my utility bill, or my $30,000 uninsurable loss that isn't gonna be covered by disaster assistance, I think I know which of those options I'm gonna take. And, you know, going through the utility rate study, I know we've talked a lot about whether we've been too aggressive or whether we need to pull back a little bit. And I'm not convinced that that's the case. I think we probably need to keep the pedal pushed and keep going on these capital improvements if we're going to make major headway for some of these other neighborhoods. I look at 3rd and Blaine, and that intersection, even with a 2-inch rain, is full of water.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. The grading is terrible, the drainage is terrible, the storm sewers are terrible. They clog up every single time we get a rain. But we're expecting people to live in that. And I just don't know that we can do that. So if there were ever an example of why we have design standards, why we pursue full reconstruction on our projects, or why we use right-sized pipe, and why we don't do things halfway, this is a great example of why. This is why we do things the way we do, and it worked. I've told multiple people, if you would have told me on Thursday morning we were going to have almost 14 inches of rain in the next 48 hours, and by Sunday nobody would know that anything happened, out in terms of street closures and everything public facing, I would have told you were crazy. There is no way that would happen. But here we are. In terms of damages, it's minimal. In terms of public damages, I should say, we'll get a handle on what the private damages look like, because I know there are a lot of basements that were wet, a lot. So we'll work on figuring some of that out. In terms of the team, I couldn't be prouder. I mean, we've talked several times, Kyle and I talked a couple times, Brian too, about how, in disasters, if you don't have a team, everything just fails. It doesn't work. And there's multiple failures along the line. That's when you start to see everything kind of cascade. I always pointed to our tornado response back in 21 as a really great example of how a team just kind of comes together, makes things work, doesn't question what needs to happen, and just makes it happen. This is an even better example. It's just everybody just stepped up. They didn't. Nobody argued about any of it. Nobody said, "Well, I don't need to do that. I think so and so should do that." It was, "Hey, this needs to be done. Okay, I'll go do it." It just happened, and I think that shows a lot of professionalism. I think it shows this team's dedication to this community and their care for their community and its residents. So, obviously, a lot of towns did not fare as well as we did. We're grateful we fared this well, but we're still thinking a lot about all these other towns. There's Mitchell and everybody southeast, Parker, Kent, Marion, Davis, Chancellor, Worthing, all those, and of course our friends, and my specific friends, I'm sure Danny's too, in Iowa, in Rock Valley and Hayward, and Sioux City, where I lived for 10, 12 years. A lot of friends hurting in all these areas. So I wouldn't consider ourselves lucky. I don't think it was luck. I think it's a mixture of divine providence and really good planning and action taking. So. Any questions?
Thank you, Nate. I do want to just make a comment too, that I know you give a lot of kudos to the staff here too, but I think it's one thing to lead by example, and that shows, excellent leadership. So Nate, you do lead by example for the rest of the team, so thank you for all your work and your heart and giving up on date night early with your wife, so.
On infrastructure improvements.
I started getting text messages about, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying any attention. I was just doing stuff, and I started texting people out in the hills, like, what are you talking about? They show me the picture, like, got it.
You had an anniversary, right?
It was our anniversary. Yeah. We quick ran up Sioux Falls, had dinner, had dessert, ran back. Yeah. Ran up there with the intent of grabbing a whole house. I didn't tell Shauna that was part of the plan. Yeah, she's watching.
Is Bierschbach a diamond store?
flat, oh, this is a weird anniversary thing.
Well, that's the 20th. So the infrastructure improvements played a huge role in making sure that we didn't have a catastrophic event, but much more importantly was the team and the actions taken to make it all work. I mean, none of the infrastructure can think. It all has to be handled, dealt with, decisions have to be made, and it's incredible to see it come together. Nice work.
Yeah, you can usually look back at one of these events and say, this call right here was probably not the right call. I don't know, I can't think of a single decision we made that just wasn't the right decision at the right time. Everything seemed to be right where it needed to be, so. Yeah, kudos to the great team.
Yeah. Are you getting other requests from the community that people are asking for things?
We had a couple of requests. I don't think we had any phone calls or emails today about dumpsters, but I know that there's been discussion about it. I mean, it's something we certainly could do, but it's something we can't staff. Like we have in the past for dump days, and that gets a little iffy. You know, to leave a dumpster unsupervised is rough in the first place. Honestly, a dumpster supervised during dump days was dangerous. I can't imagine what it's going to be when it's unsupervised. So it is something we can do. I'm sure we could find a place to set it up, whether it's the park or somewhere else. But I also, you know, driving around and seeing debris, I'm not seeing quite what I would expect to see if the damage was as extensive as it were. So it's something that council wishes we do. We can make it happen, but I don't know at this point that is necessary. So
I know I saw that Harrisburg is providing at the school, people can bring garbage and things like that. I don't know what their condition is. I know Harold was saying that it's not as severe as like Canton and stuff, but I don't know if that's similar to Lennox, but I'm not sure the reason why behind it, so I was surprised to see that. I know T is not.
T's not. So. I think Canton probably is, but Harrisburg I think was just late today. I thought that was the first I heard of that.
And if it's very minimal that people are requesting that, maybe we don't need to, and we just kind of play that by ear, I guess. But I do think of some older people that you know are going to have wet carpet, and how they even going to. I mean, I'm thankful for the community rallies around and helps neighbors and relatives and things too. So, and hopefully we continue to do that.
I think if we were to get a call here where an elderly person in town that isn't able to take care of it themselves, we would find a way to. Get a volunteer over there. We know plenty of people with dump trailers that can get over there, and probably call Jake actually and send him over. But we know plenty of people that could help and that are willing to help at a moment's notice. So.
Do we still need to let our community know to restrict water usage?
No, not necessarily. Was it Saturday we were talking about lifting it? Sunday morning, I think we were talking about lifting it. And I pulled up the numbers, and we actually used more water this week, previous Saturday, than we did the Saturday before. Even putting the word out did not really help at all. So.
Can we tell how many folks have the notifications turned on our app?
I believe, I don't think we can see how many we can see have the like push notifications activated. We can just see downloads for the app. Based on how quickly information was getting around, I'm feeling pretty good about how this thing turned out.
I want to keep my streak alive and make sure that I put it out there. That we do.
Are we counting meetings?
We do have, we do have a City of Lennox app that you can download. And make sure you turn notifications on so you get pertinent, timely information right on your phone about what's going on in your community. Whether it's an event or an emergency. It's a good idea to have this app with notifications on.
Just being able to, you know, 99% of those posts this weekend were done from my phone from the truck, you know, and I can post it on Facebook, I can post it on Instagram. It has to have a photo for Instagram, so we didn't use it that much. The live feed and the notifications is a big one, and to have that be able to go out right now, you know, do not use this road. The drinking water is safe. That was an important one to us. That was a big deal when we saw that, obviously.
Did that replace the text notification, the app piece of it?
Yeah, we do still, I mean, our utility billing system does still have an email and text tool that we can use. But it's so cumbersome, and I think it's limited to 110 characters, and it's just not what we're gonna use in a modern community, so.
Is there any, because I had gotten this question on Facebook about notifying people who don't maybe have access to, you know, a smartphone or the internet. Is there, like a robocall system that the city could acquire as much like the school has or something
Yes.
that would reach more people?
Yep, we're planning on including that in next year's budget. So the system, the app and website that we have is the exact same system the school has. So Carly and I had done a demo with them, like 6 weeks ago, I think. And I wanna say it's like $4,000 or $5,000. So we'll plan on adding that into next year's.
Thank you.
Yep. The important thing is that folks sign up for that. I don't, we've talked about being able to migrate all of our information from the utility billing system into that. That has most of the phone numbers in town, so.
Any other questions, comments? Other information, thank you.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, thanks again. Just one more item that we have here with the new business that was added to the agenda is the, so we received a park board resignation that we heard earlier, Kelsey Sukup, and then just one today, Kelly Garden. And so I'd like to ask for a motion, did a little bit of conversations with a few people, and one of the names that kind of surfaced was Sarah Quayle. And she has accepted and is excited about the opportunity to serve on the Park and Rec Board. And so if there's any discussion or comments, otherwise I would ask for a motion to approve her appointment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, so motion does carry. Sarah Coyle will be on our Parks and Rec Board, and then we'll be looking on adding another person here shortly too.
We discussed Kelly Boomgarden earlier, but you just mentioned Kelsey Sukup.
That was the.
That was in there.
That was on the agenda.
All right.
Probably was additional.
So on consent agenda, we had a resignation from last week. That was Kelsey. Kelly emailed today to announce her.
There it is.
My
No
apologies.
worries.
Thank you. I'll catch up.
That's it on that. We just want to leave one moment for Nate to make a general statement as well.
Mayor and council, there's a pretty good chance, I think we can just make it official tonight, that tonight is Denise Hansen's last council meeting with us. She's moving on to, well, lots of things really. She's moving on to grandmahood. She's moving on to owning a fishing hunting lodge facility in the metropolis of Harold. And as of a week and a half ago, she's now also going to be the deputy finance officer in Pierre.
Yes.
Denise, really both of us, but Denise, I think probably more so, started at a difficult transition time for us. She had to come in after I had been finance officer for 2 months without planning to be. And there's no telling how much of that job I screwed up at the time. She moved our financial systems from where they were in felt like MS-DOS in 1995 to modern days, and really solidified our policies and our processes to best care for some taxpayer funds. She's been a trusted advisor for those 5 years, a confidant and a friend throughout that time. And she's off to new adventures in Harold. Grandbaby is just a few days away, but I think publicly want to thank Denise for her time here, pushing the city of Lennox really into the forefront of not only financial management, but really making us one of those communities that stands out statewide as something people aspire to copy. So thank you and congratulations, and keep a spot open for my boat in that shop.
Oh, yeah.
Here, here.
Yep.
So July 9 is your official last date, but the baby could be here any day, and there's some
Yes.
PTO.
So we don't,
Anything else you want to share, Denise?
No, I'm gonna miss Lennox. I've really enjoyed the last 5.5 years working with Nate. He's an awesome administrator, and just,
You don't have to kiss my butt anymore.
All of the department heads, but just listening to Brian and Kyle and Nate and what they stepped up to do this week or this weekend, it just makes you really feel grateful that you have those type of people that want to, that really care, you know, and so I'm not gonna cry because I'm not. So anyway, it's been a good 5.5 years, and I enjoyed everything, and you know, I'm only a phone call away. And if you ever make it to Harold, we're right off of Highway 14. Please stop in and see us. So Triple H is what it's gonna be called.
Nice.
Nice.
You got a liquor license.
Yes, we do. Malt beverage.
Malt beverage, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll be able to get that. It's just.
Thank you so much. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And we are adjourned.